Okay. Hello, I warmly welcome you to our 108th webinar by the Academy of Space Renaissance International. My name is Sabrina Hines, and I'm the person responsible for our webinar series. And on this 16th of March 2026, I'm really delighted that you have come to join us. Sorry. Our today's special guest is Rick Tumlinson, and I'm really glad that you are here. And he will talk about why space, the purpose of people. I would like to welcome also our Adriano Altino. He is vice president of the SRI and former president, and one of our founders. Welcome, Adriano.
Thank you very much, Sabine. Welcome, Rick.
Yes, welcome, Rick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Rick, before I give you the floor, I would like to introduce you to our audience. Rick Tumlinson is a co-founder of several space companies and non-profits, including Deep Space Industries, Orbital Outfitters, the New World Institute, and the Space Frontier Foundation. He is an active space entrepreneur and space activist. He has testified on space-related topics before the US Congress 6 times since 1995. In 2004, Space News magazine listed Tomlinson as one of the 100 most influential people in the space industry. Called one of the world's top space visionaries and most influential people in the space field, Rick Tumlinson helped coin the term New Space and is credited with helping birth the new commercial space industry highlighted by Musk, Bezos, and Branson. A leading writer, speaker, and 6-time congressional witness, Rick helped start the first mission to find water on the moon, signed the first space commercial data purchase agreement, led the commercial takeover of the Russian Mir space station, signed the first private astronaut to fly to the space station, co-founded the Space Frontier Foundation, and was a founding board member of the X Prize. In 2015, he won the World Technology Award along with Greg Venter of the Human Genome Project. He founded the Space Fund venture capital company with 20 space companies in its portfolio and is a member of the US Space Force Doctrine Organization Group. Rick's Space Revolution radio pod is on iHeart Radio networks, iRock Space Radio, and most podcast sites. He hosts the New World Conference Space Cowboy Ball in Austin. Once I want to go there. And his nonprofit Earth-like Foundation is working to save the Earth while expanding life into the cosmos. Rick, the floor is yours. And we are glad to have you here.
Well, great. Can you hear me?
I can hear
We're
you
good?
very well.
Okay, great. Now we're going to be seeing what we can do. I am convinced that the day that we can figure out how to do audio visual will be the day we can open space. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to share screen, and you two can tell me if that's working. And there we go.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. Now the next step is, can I do anything with it? And great. So, okay, let's see what we can do here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm a huge fan of SRI and just a huge fan of people who are willing to step up and dedicate themselves and their lives to the cause of opening the high frontier to humanity. I've got a bunch to cover here. I will tell you this, I have to admit, my PowerPoint sort of crashed about 20 minutes ago, so we're going to see if it's still working. So it'll be an adventure, just an adventure, like opening the frontier. Here we go. So see if I can how do I get these to advance? Let me see. There we go. So my nonprofit is the Earthlight Foundation. We're a 501c3 charitable organization dedicated to expanding life and humanity beyond the Earth. We can come back to this maybe during the Q&A. I do have a book out called Why Space? The Purpose of People. And Greg Autry, who is the person who runs the University of Central Florida, gave me an amazing quote, which means I'm going to probably have to buy him dinner for the rest of his life. But I really appreciate what he had to say there. Please do, while I'm doing this presentation to you, feel free to go on Amazon and order copies. I do ask if you do order copies, and lots of copies would be great, but please, if you can give a review. If you don't like it, please just send me a sternly worded letter. I have a podcast, a radio podcast on IROC Space Radio. We go on the IROC platform. We're part of the iHeart Radio Network, and that is then sent globally, and then it goes to a podcast format. I have lots of great guests and a lot of fun there. Now, coming back to Earthlight, these did get a little out of order. Our most recent project is Space for Ukraine. What we're doing there is we are sending donations to STEAM educators who are already on the ground in Ukraine, avoiding the development of a bureaucracy. We just love your help on that one if you are interested in helping those kids. If this works, by the way, with Space for Ukraine, in coming years, we may move to other locations like Space 4 in the country. And we can go from that. Very minimal overhead. Most of the funding goes directly to the educators who are already there. Let's see what we can do here. And you're the first to see this. I just got this in the mail from our artist. It's not the exactly completely finished version of it, but our event, the New Worlds Conference, is going to become the New Worlds Fair this year. We rented the part of the convention center in Houston, and we are doing what they call in business scaling. Please join us. We are inviting organizations, and I may talk to Adriano after this, to come, and we will give you a room, a session, a track. We are trying to be a very big tent for people to come and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, that's followed by the amazing Space Cowboy Ball, which is a costume party that asks the question, what would you wear to a party on Mars in 100 years? And we get some really wild stuff. We give out the Space Cowboy Award, and the funding from this will go to Space for Ukraine and other charities each year. That all being said, everything that we're doing here is not necessarily about space. It's about life and humanity. It's about this lady right here, the MotherWorld. And I care deeply about this lady, our mother, and we haven't cared enough about her. Now, it's very important you understand we are not running away. We are here to take care of her. And I'll come back to that in the principles of purpose later on. Now, the thing is, in space, the hardest thing of space is not gravity, it's not radiation. About opening space, it's not gravity, radiation, it's not the environment, it's anything. It's a lack of imagination, it's a lack of our ability. And basically, as apes, we're still, and we're struggling with our own savagery, but we do have an ability to dream. And the hardest thing about opening space is allowing us, giving ourselves what I call in the book, permission to dream. Now, one of the people who gave me permission to dream early on was Dr. Gerard K. O'Neill. He wrote the book, The High Frontier, and he was the father of the space revolution. An amazing gentleman, a nice person, and who actually gave me the ability to get involved when I volunteered to work for him in Princeton. I literally told his number two person, I will sweep the floors, just let me in. There's a lesson for those of you who want to get involved in space here, because I'm not a billionaire. I talk about this in the book. My dad had 3 jobs. I went through some abusive stuff. I was homeless at one point. I had lost my 2 front teeth in a gang fight with a skinhead in the UK. I was not a good student. I did drugs and alcohol and rock and roll and everything else. But I had given myself permission to dream that someday I would find my way into this movement. And I stayed the course and eventually got myself in here. And yeah, sometimes you may just have to say, look, I'll work for free. Just let me be around you. Let me be in there. Let me be in the arena. So his book was not The High Frontier. It wasn't just a book. It was a movement. This is an interesting picture. And yeah, I look a little silly there. But I got excited back then. I also had hair. You can see here some of the volunteers. And what's interesting is you'll see the Mass Driver 1 slide there. The guy on the far right who has the equation on his T-shirt is a guy named Eric Drexler. He was one of us. Peter Diamandis was one of us. We were all, and there was a kid who had a bookstore in Florida named, what's his name? Jeff Bezos. But the guy there, Drexler, is the guy who created the term nanotechnology, because he wanted to figure out ways of doing things in a very small scale that could then be used to transform space. You'll see on the right there, that's the Mass Driver. We were hackers, in a sense. We were makers at that point. And that's me in the background, Freeman Dyson standing there to my right. And we were building things out of plywood and wire. This little system right here is Mass Driver 3. We actually demonstrated the ability to accelerate a payload at 1,800 gravities of acceleration, which is what you need to escape the lunar surface. So you can use Mass Drivers. Now, when I say I worked on this, I stood in the corner and I handed smart people tools. I'm not an engineer. I did whatever I could, whatever they told me to do, but I was there. Now, we had this thing called the shuttle, and I'm sorry, I've dropped a slide out here. And that all happened during this period of the high frontier. We all thought that we were about to open the frontier. It was going to be, the shuttle was going to fly 50 times a year. It was going to transform everything. We were going to get out there. It was just going to be off we go. It didn't happen. It turned out it was a lie. It ended up being 3.5 flights a year, generally, 450 million cost per flight. I mean, it was just amazingly not what we were told. That was when some of us got a little bit rebellious. We founded the Space Frontier Foundation, basically went to war with the aerospace industrial establishment, and fought to change the laws and policies. It was our organization, Space Frontier Foundation, that created a lot of the different legislative and government activities, including the groundwork for what was called COTS, and Commercial Orbital Transportation Systems, which also stands for Commercial Off the Shelf. And that allowed companies like SpaceX and others to be able to carry payloads to the space station. In 1995, I testified in front of the House Space Subcommittee in Congress, called for all transportation to and from space to be commercially provided and all additional growth beyond the space station to be commercially developed. Why? Because the government can't drive trucks and build buildings. We're going to come back to that in a minute because they're still trying. But eventually we succeeded, and all kinds of interesting things happened along the way, including these things. Conestoga 1, which was launched on Matagorda Island off the coast of Texas, was the first commercial rocket ever flown. I was privileged to be a part of the MirCorp group. We took over the Russian space station for a short period. We lost because of the pressure from NASA on the Russian government at the time, caused Putin to deorbit the Mir, one of the saddest days of my life. But we did fly one crew up there, And I did get a pirate flag up there, which is, you see a pirate flag behind me here. And I would check out the film Orphans of Apollo. Orphans of Apollo. It tells that story. Along the way, though, we had signed up somebody to fly in space, a guy named Dennis Tito. And I arranged for him to sign a contract with us. We eventually had to transfer him to the International Space Station, where he became, again, the first person to buy a ticket to go to space. Now, what we did there was a couple of things. We showed that there were people who had money who were interested in buying infrastructure and supporting infrastructure development. We also showed that there were people who were interested in paying to go to space. So eventually we were able to kill off the space shuttle. Now, again, the space shuttle was a magnificent vehicle, but it never delivered. It was too complicated, too expensive to do what we were told it was going to do. And so we started a new space age. The old space age is dying more and more. And you guys probably saw this first landing back in the day of that SpaceX reusable element from the Falcon. That was it. That was the beginning. Because if you can reuse what you're flying, then you're opening things up. And again, I'll come back to that in a few minutes. Now, as we begin to open space, I like to talk about three keys to the frontier. One, low-cost transportation systems. Number two, use of local resources. And number three, government support. I'm going to start with number three, because that's the one that's in our face right now in different ways. And government support or absence, in other words, either support us or at least get out of our way. I was on a UNOSA event this morning, webinar, and I was making the comment there that we don't want the Wild West. Businesses need structure. We need regulation. We just don't need overly intrusive bureaucracy that slows down what it is we're trying to do. But we need rules. But governments can support the opening of the frontier. This government's supporting its opening of the frontier 100%. In fact, it owns it basically. There are no real private companies in China. They all have a deference or a default mode that they are eventually part of the government. But the first time we went to the moon, the Soviets challenged the United States with a government command and control program to go to the moon. It was the race. And of course, we responded with our own. And yeah, Apollo was amazing, but it was completely a government program. It was a state, some people might say state socialist program, command economy program. It got us there. It was great. I remember growing up and there were people driving cars on the moon. I thought it was amazing what they were doing until I began to really understand what had happened. And what really happened was there was one job. There was one job during Apollo, and that was to go out there and take the world's most expensive selfies. In other words, to say, hey, we did it. Look at us. Check us out. We're America, free enterprise, even though it was a government program. A little weird, right? But we did it. We won. We're better. We're cooler than the Soviets. And you know what? What happened, though, was then it fell apart because there was no real plan. It was really just all government all the time doing stuff. Now, we're in a weird situation here in the United States right now because we have a government program that is central to the opening of the frontier, and that's called Artemis. I have very big problems with Artemis as it stands right now, and I'm going to go a little bit into that and then get into more of the fun stuff. But I really can't sit here and try and get you all excited about space unless I address the big orange elephant in the room. So Artemis is really, to me, a sad imitation of Apollo. It's not exciting. Let me see if I can get this to work here. It's boring. It's expensive. It's too late. I mean, it's like over 50 years too late. And it's a dead end. They've got like 6 missions planned. So it's very weird imitation of Apollo. This next mission that's going to happen, I am terrified of. I'm scared to death what's going to happen on this. And all they're going to do is they're going to circle the moon and come back, which is basically what we did with Apollo 8, something like 50 years ago. So that's not exciting to me. And again, dangerous for no real cause. There are a lot of challenges that are being faced by Artemis. They have to refuel the Starship. They have to build and test the gateway. They have to fly the SLS. They have to dock Orion to the gateway. They have to dock the Starship to the gateway. They have to throw the Starship away. They're throwing the Starship away, the one that lands on the moon. SpaceX wants to do something else with it, and I hope they do figure that out. And then they have to do Earth lunar injection and landing of the Orion capsule. These are all systems that have never been all tested together. Now, if I'm China, what I'm going to say is, look, we're doing some pretty good stuff. How about we land on the moon on July 19th? Those of you who know history know that July 20th is the anniversary of Apollo. So let's land on the moon the day before. Well, it's put us into this weird situation where the government is trying to create this sense of a race to the moon. There is no race to the moon. Not really. There shouldn't be. The race is to economically develop the system of the Earth and the moon and the asteroids and the solar system itself, but not to a particular destination. We did that already. So what's happening here in the US is we have a bunch of companies and states and space centers and people that are vested in this vehicle, which I call the Senate launch scam. It's a total waste. It's a dead end, and it's dangerous. Think about this. If you're 1,000 years from now, people are looking back at this period of time, and they're looking at America, and they're like, hold it, you had all these private companies and people that were doing all this amazing stuff who were actually inspired by Apollo and the space shuttle, and they're in competition, in a sense, with the government that's building this thing, which is a complete disaster, and I believe should be canceled. It's a waste. $26.3 billion projected cost, $4.1 billion per flight, times 6. Terrible. Then there's this thing, the Orion capsule. The last time it flew, pieces of it fell off. The next time it flies, it's going to have humans in it. I just can't believe some of the thinking that's going into all of this. It needs to be canceled. We're wasting $20.4 billion. 9 to 6.3 billion per flight. Ridiculous. Then there's this thing. Now, I think this one's already being shoved out the airlock, the gateway station, the station to nowhere, gateway to nowhere, as we call it. There's no reason for it. It's actually a very dangerous place, too, because it's outside of the protective radiation belts, the Van Allen belts of the Earth. So they can't even let people live there or stay there, because they're basically going to get fried over time by radiation. Projected cost, $5.3 billion. So let's get out there and do something else. The private sector is stepping up. They are. I was lucky enough to be invited to the flight of the first SpaceX Starship, and it was amazing. It was totally amazing. This is actually my photograph of it happening. And one of the things that is exciting about that is that it's the dawn of what I call of low-cost transportation. It's coming right now. That was amazing. So the next bullet, again, going backwards, low-cost transportation. It's being developed right now by the private sector. Now, well, we always talk about Jeff and Elon, but there's people like Peter Beck from New Zealand, amazing guy, not a billionaire. Well, he's a billionaire now because his company's being so successful, but he didn't start out that way. Or Tom Markusak. I love this photo. It kind of like gives him this weird halo look. But Tom is, a guy, an engineer. He worked for several of these companies, put his own company together, Firefly, and they're not doing stuff. There are others out there as well that are doing great work. And they're looking at really opening the frontier by creating reusable rocket ships. Now, this is a very important term, and I urge you to start using this language because language is power. These are not rockets. These are not launchers. These are rocket ships. Rocket ships. Use the word ship. Why do we use the word ship? Because you do not throw a ship away. Rocket ships. They're coming. This one coming from Rocket Lab. So anyway, this next slide is a repeat. I'm going to skip right by it here. This one. But the railroad to space is about to open. And we're going to start getting these buildings on the orbital street, as I call it. That's the next part. Space facilities. There are at least 5 private companies right now in the US with international partners that are developing space hubs and facilities. And it's just going to be amazing. And of course, our government's involved, so they want to have like one. And some of us are fighting against that. There should not be what NASA calls a down select, which is them deciding which one's the best one. Because governments think like that. They think in program terms. We have a program, right? We actually had to fight that with the space shuttle. Like there were people in government. It's like, we want one replacement for the space shuttle. We don't want one replacement. We want a market. We want competition. We want people competing to push the price down, offering different variations. Maybe one of these is a space hotel. Maybe one of them is a lab. Or multiple labs, multiple space hotels, or a company like Vast, which is planning on doing a rotating facility, which is probably the one I'm most excited about. But they're coming. So there's no reason to, shall we say, down select these things. Instead, let's move to what we call anchor tenancy and utilization based on demonstrated capability. In other words, hire them. Say, hey, we want to test this thing on yours, and we can test this thing over there. And that ESA can get involved in that. JAXA, everybody can get involved in that. Supporting private space facilities through utilization. Be an anchor tenant. And as we do this, let's go going on the moon. The moon is coming. It is right there. It is the island offshore. Even Elon had this epiphany recently. I was like, welcome back, Elon. Now, look, I am totally a fan of Mars, but there is no economic rationale for Mars. If you're going to Mars, you're going because you're a true believer. And I am a huge supporter of that. So if people want to go to Mars, that's fantastic. But right now, let's get started. Let's get, the government, the US government, because of this race, whatever you want to say about it, is involved, is supporting. So let's go. And that's why you're seeing Jeff and Elon and the others all working on it, because there's money there to be made. And that'll help them leverage their way out, because that's what they're all about. So look, let's let these folks have their fun. We can go to Mars. We can get away from being in a race. We can focus on the long game. We can focus on just getting things done. It's not about glory here. It's about building infrastructure. People like Jeff, this was from another show, I just grabbed it earlier. People like Jeff and others, they're not in this for the glory so much as they are opening the frontier. In my book, I point out that Jeff and Elon are not going into space to make money. They made their money to open space. People don't realize that. They think, oh my God, they did all these things on the Earth and they're going to go out there and they want to take over the solar system. Look, they're business people. They're going to operate like business people wherever they go. But if you know their hearts, and look, I disagree with a lot of the things that are happening on the Earth, and many of the things that they do, I completely disagree with. But when it comes to opening the frontier, they share the dream that we all share. Their goal is to open the frontier for all of us to go. And so then there's the next one, as we begin to get out there and start to use space resources. When you go to any frontier, you use the resources where they are. For example, these are the engines of this vehicle, which is going out into the frontier here in North America. And the propellant is right there. It's called grass. You live off the land. You don't carry everything with you. You use the resources you find. As many of you may know, I did a space resource development project of my own. It's called Deep Space Industries. We were looking at asteroid mining. My friend Peter Diamandis did his own planetary resources. We were a bit early, but the idea is solid. It's sound. I can say this, both companies didn't make it, but we did help transform the conversation and made it from something that people giggle about to being a real conversation. So here we are on the moon, harvesting resources. I think it's going to be important that we develop the moon, and we develop it in all kinds of different ways. But I think we have to be responsible no matter where we go. And I talk a lot about that in the book. And one of the things that I came up with regarding the moon, for example, was an idea, and I published this, I think, in Scientific American. I call it the Lunabella Protocol. And that is that we don't construct anything on the moon that is permanent over 10 kilometers in size on the side of the moon that faces the Earth. Why is that? Well, because the moon is a shared spiritual resource. There's no need for us to. By the way, 10 kilometers is pretty darn large. You can do a lot of things that are small. Why 10 kilometers? Because that's basically the naked eye, being able to see things on the lunar surface. You can do a lot. And I say permanent. I'm not talking about whether you have lights and things like that. I'm talking about defacing this side of the moon, because everybody on the Earth doesn't have a choice at that point. We're going to have to look at that thing. You know what? At times, you just have to show some taste, show some class. That's actually bigger than 10 kilometers, that dot, but that's about how big you'd have to be seen for the Earth. Now, why is that important? Because we have to think generationally, multiple generations moving into our future. We have to think about our children. It's their future. It's their universe. It's their solar system, or their solar system, their universe. It's their moon. We're just happening to mess with it for a little while in between here in this moment in time and them. So let's get out there. Let's get beyond the moon and learn how to go do it beyond the moon. We can go out into free space. We can build habitats. Jeff's dream, O'Neill's dream, my dream is rotating habitats in free space. We can develop space solar energy, as you've heard recently, the idea of putting data centers in space. We can protect the Earth and perhaps look at ways to reduce the amount of sunlight hitting the Earth so that we can deal with climate change, because climate change is real, it is human-made, and it can potentially be devastating. In the book, I talk about just how do you think about what if runaway greenhouse happens? Runaway greenhouse. What does that mean? That means human activities could, in the end, turn Earth into Venus. No living things. It's one thing if we wipe ourselves out with a plague, or we have a nuclear war, or something like that. Then the Earth would abide, the Earth would come back, and life would probably spring up around the Earth and go. But if we go full Venus, it's all over. And what does that mean? What if we're the only planet in the universe that has life? I know we want there to be more. I do. The odds are very high. There is more out there. But you always have to bet on the minimum. You have to bet on the cards you have in front of you. And the cards I have in front of me say life on Earth is it right now. We have to take care of the mother world. All of this boils down to a new conversation. It's time to change what we're talking about and why we're talking about it. It's time to blow open the cage of our imaginations, our capabilities, and our possibilities. It's time to give ourselves what I call permission to dream. Now, in the book, I talk about a revelation I have about halfway through the book, that having fought for all of this for several decades, something happened. I lost my mom. I had several things happen all at once that were very weird, kind of moved me into this position to have a conversation with myself and the universe. And in that conversation, I began to realize that while I had been pitching space in all these different ways to people, there was something deeper at work. Now, these are some of the ways we've talked about space. And we do this. Everybody on this call who cares about space and talks to other people gives these arguments. I know you do. It's for science. It's about the environment. It's about strategy and strategic power and politics. It's about planetary defense. It's about resources and taking the pain of harvesting resources off the MotherWorld and moving them out into space. It's about tourism, about energy. We can harvest energy in space and send it back to Earth. These are what I call the traditional reasons for opening space. They are all valid. But there's something else going on here. There's something much more important, much deeper, and very exciting that goes beyond all of these that add up to this idea of economics and profit and abundance and all of this. Much more exciting. It's our purpose. I believe it is the purpose of humanity to expand life and our civilization into space. It's why we're here. It's why we exist. So I laid out a few principles of purpose. The idea that we are here to enact these becomes something that at least we in the Earthlight community commit ourselves to. The first principle of purpose is to protect and expand the domain of life. Protect the MotherWorld at all costs. Save her. Whatever it takes. Save the MotherWorld. My friend used to say, you can't save the neighborhood if your house is on fire. It's time to really fix that issue. But at the same time, we go the next step, to carry her seeds to places now dead, to carry the light of life to places now dead. What an exciting concept. What a wonderful concept. Oh, by the way, I mean here on the Earth too. Let's green the deserts. Let's add life. Plant trees, grow whatever you can. I'm a big believer in doing this. I am absolutely a tree hugger. To improve and evolve. Actually, I've changed this now. It's honor and evolve. We honor and evolve human civilization. What do I mean by that? I honor you. I honor where you come from. I honor your story. Whether you are what some people might call, I don't really like the term, but if you're indigenous, because to me, the only indigenous people are those in Africa, because that's the only people who have never shown up somewhere else. They live there. They started there. They've been there forever. But wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever your story is, whether you're a conqueror or you were the conquered, whether you were those who were there or those who were taken, whatever it is, we want to hear your story. And when you put your story together with our story, then we begin to get a real view of human history, not one that's made up by perhaps, let's call them wealthy Europeans or something. It's all of our stories rolled together that give the true mosaic. And from that mosaic, we can begin to assemble a real vision of who we have been as human beings. Why is that important? Because then that makes the value of who we are greater as a civilization, as a species. It also enlightens us as to what we should be and how we should be as we go out there. Because this time we can do it as one united humanity. There's one place in the solar system where Russians and Americans don't just hang out. They love each other. It's right up there in the space station. And we can learn how to live together, and we can model how to live together, and we can share that with the rest of the Earth. And that's what I want to see. And I want to see us evolve, by the way. I left that slide a little bit quickly. As we evolve, we may evolve culturally. We'll also evolve physically. In the book, by the way, a friend of mine said that everything I say for the next year is going to start with in the book or that's in the book. In the book, I talk about a family. I have little science fiction stories at the beginning of the last chapters. And in one of these, they're a family and they're doing asteroid mining. But this family is comprised of AIs and humans, and they're all one family. Why not? We have so many possibilities, so many ways of creating spiritual sentience and living being that we can grow into anything we want. We can become anything we want. I actually talk about the idea of humanity turning into different species. We have Homo lunaris, Homo martialis, and on, Homo spacialis. We will speciate. There will be generations on the moon that will never be able to come back to the Earth because they've grown up in 1/6 gravity. There will be species that go out into space itself. Some of them will do it in rotating habitats where they have 1 gravity, which means they can come back to the Earth. But some may decide to go with 0G. What are they going to look like? Who are they? Will they need legs? What will they become? It's all about becoming. It's all about crossing over into the unknown and becoming new, reinvigorating yourself, becoming more. And then it's about exploring and experiencing the universe. That's the exciting one. We know nothing. We've been nowhere. The universe is calling us to go out there right now, and we can be a part of it. We just need to go. It's about getting off the couch, putting down the remote, putting down the game controller, putting down the mobile, and getting out the door, meeting your neighbors. It actually applies on the human level just as much as it does on the society level. The possibility of change only begins when you embrace it. The possibility of becoming more than you are only begins when you give yourself permission to dream. Permission to dream. You give it to yourself and no one can ever take it away from you because it is something granted by you, to you, for you. It is about becoming. It is about growing into more. It is about the grandeur of all possibility that begins with that spark of sentience that happened in the middle of the plains of Africa under the stars when somebody looked up and said, wow, what is this? Wow. What is it down the valley that I can go see? What if I walk up the shoreline? What will I find? That's it. That's humanity. That's possibility. And this time we can do it right because we will have unlimited resources. We don't need to kill again. We don't need to ravage, rape, and plunder again. It's all out there for us to take and to share and to be a part of. We can do it. This time we get to go together. This time we get to go as one family. Again, whatever family means, whoever that family is, this time we're going to take it from nobody. We're not going to show up on somebody's doorstep on the beach of somebody else's place and go, hey, planting the flag, we are now in charge. We don't have to do that anymore. We go together. We bring the seeds of life to places now dead. This time we don't take it from anybody. This time we give it to everybody. And that's what it's all about. Creating a future of possibility and hope. Creating a future that is about crossing from the completely understood place that you are in right now into the place of the unknown. Crossing into the undiscovered country of possibility and hope, of becoming. Who we are right now need not be who we are tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Who we are right now is the opening, the expression of sentience in the universe. See, without us, without other people like us somewhere sitting across on the other side of the universe who can look up into the sky and ask the question, why am I here? Who am I? What is that? The universe is dead. It's just rocks and energy. We have the capability and the possibility of bringing life into the universe. And without us, there is nothing. Nothing. So look, if you care about the future, if you care about the mother world, if you care about your own legacy of who you are, if you care about your children, if you care about anything at all that involves something that is outside of this flesh bag in which you are trapped right now, it is time for you to stand up, to join us, to step outside, and to go into the universe. Because we do have a purpose. You have a purpose. We are here to go there. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting lecture, and I'm really moved by your words. Yeah, we all know what's happening in the world at the moment, and I'm really, really afraid because there are so many families, women, children, in war, living in war, and no one stops it. People are forcing it because they can earn money, and I feel like impotent
Mhm.
against the situation, and it makes me really feel down because yeah, I'm thinking to leave somewhere because here in Germany, I'm from Germany, we have a right party getting more and more power, and our chancellor is very fascinated and involved in war, and I don't understand this. Well, but thank you for your lecture. It was really interesting, and I totally agree with you. And I liked many points of views you shared. I would like to give you some remarks from the chat now. Here is someone, William Snow. Um, and he was far in the left of the photo you showed. Maybe you know him. And he went with Gary to run the lab to build MD2. You know him. Okay. And Eric Drexler got him involved in this effort from his lectures at MIT during the MIT Europe in January 1975. You know him. Okay, yeah. So
Wow, yeah.
greetings
Yes,
from
yes,
him.
yes, yes, yes.
He is listening to you. And
That's great.
yes, and here is a question from Savu Jun. Also, I don't know the name. It's
Did
only
we
an
freeze?
email. What humans will live on the moon or Mars with only 0.17 or 0.38 G, respectively? And human physiology will not be capable of adapting to these environments over a single lifespan.
Mhm. Number one, the science isn't there. We don't know either way. And I want to give you a quick aside on that because there's a reason we don't know about what happens in multiple generations off of the Earth. And it's interesting because it's not the reason you think, right? It's not that we've done all this great research and we just haven't figured it out. It's because the nature of the government space programs up until now have been purely about sending government missions, astronauts or cosmonauts, to go out and do a thing and then come back. And so it's a thing that they've been asked to do, which the ultimate thing that NASA has ever been asked to do, for example, is to go to Mars someday. They don't have any money for it or anything like that, but someday they're, in the back of their heads and Congress and Senate and all this is like, we're going to go to Mars and explore, and then we're going to come back. So let's say that you do that full mission. Well, that's 2 years, maybe 3 years, let's say. The mandate and the expenditure that's gone into biological studies up until now has ended, in a sense, with what happens to a human being after they've been in space for 3 years.
Mhm.
They have never, this is our own illusion, by the way, in our community. They have never been told to study what happens in multiple generations. They've done a little bit here and there. I think they've gotten as far as maybe some, at most some mice, hamsters, whatever. That's it. We don't know, because the settlement and opening of space to human habitation has never been adopted formally. There's one exception, which lasted just for a little time, had no money behind it, in 1988. But it's never been adopted as the goal of government-funded space programs. Otherwise, the space station would have like big centrifuges on it, and they would have been up there for like all these years that there's been a space station, learning what happens when you have multiple generations. So they would have like a centrifuge that had Mars gravity, and one that had lunar gravity, and one that didn't. And we would know like 5 or 6 or 10 generations into mammalian reproduction what happens in space. We don't know, because they've never been told to do it. And frankly, I blame our community, because our community has not told the government in an effective way, you need to put money in this so we know what happens. Now, here's the scary part, Sabine, is that it's about to happen now. We're going to have space stations. And there are people, I guarantee you, there is some married couple up there, or maybe unmarried, whatever, who's probably already put down a deposit because they want to go to the space station and do the thing, right? They want to be the first to conceive in space. We don't know if you can as a human being,
But
right?
I think there's a little bit more, and I have a little bit
Sure, go
contradiction because you said they went to the moon and back, or to the space station and back, and nothing happened. I know that they did a lot of experiments, and they gain a lot of knowledge about this, and all over the world, people are searching on this topic, and we have many things which were developed for space, which help us now in our daily life. This is clear. So it was not in vain, and there's, I think, a little bit more than the gravity. The gravity is a essential fact, I think, and I think you will not adapt, and there has not been born a baby in space, but they are searching here. We have the Mars station in Utah. We have in Poland this space habitat. They are searching about the human factor. I was talking about this last week, no, 2 weeks ago, because I was there as an analog astronaut. And they do a lot of research here on Earth, and I know they do a lot of experiments in space. So it is not so much in vain, I would say. But now as you said, they try to do a race who is the first on moon again, and yeah, China is there, and but I think they think more about exploration, the moon, than and seeing they can do it like a yeah point to go to Mars, because on Mars we have a little bit atmosphere, and moon we have nothing. So I think this is the first step, and then the second, and yeah.
So
Okay,
Sabine,
okay, no,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Adriano, it's your
you can
show.
say something.
Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, I'm absolutely not saying that what we've done with our space programs are in vain. We couldn't have this conversation without the space program, 100%.
Yeah,
What I'm
definitely.
saying is they've never been asked to look at settlement. You used the word exploration, Sabine. That's what they've been looking at,
Exactly.
but not how do you live there for multiple generations. That's missing. Right. And there are some great organizations that have popped up in the last couple of years that are looking at that reproduction question. But until somebody figures that out, and by the way, the billionaires need to do this too. right? Because they're building all this stuff out there. They don't know. We absolutely don't know if we can have babies that grow full term into human beings on the moon, in microgravity, or on Mars. We hope it's so. We don't know about like ectoplasmic, all of these things that can happen and go wrong, with the female body and all of this in space. We just don't know because they haven't studied it, because they haven't been told to by the taxpayers. That's all I'm saying. But absolutely, we have learned so much.
Yes,
Yes.
I
Sorry.
think, if I can, I think you have touched one of the key points when you say they are thinking in terms of programs and missions and not in terms of expanding of settlement. This is the point. And
Yes.
this is what we at SRI, we are saying. You know that this webinar is in the frame of our Congress, that we are going to have our 4th World Congress from 30th of July to the 4th of September. And you are one of the keynote speakers that will talk the first day during the opening day. However, what I wanted to say, what we say is that we are still in the paradigm of exploration.
Yes.
Not in the paradigm of settlement and civilian space development. This is the problem, the real problem. And when you say, do we have the government support? That it was another interesting question. And because I think we are still lying. You said that there were lies, that they were lying when saying that a space shuttle made 50 flights per year and so on. That was not true, but there is something that is not true. If we are not giving proper funding into key researches that are still problem of science, not only of development, but problem of science. And one is the protection from cosmic and solar radiation.
Mm-hmm.
Very important point. And the other one is simulated gravity. So if we don't put proper funds in these researches, so I am working in these days to develop the thesis 1 document. It is the main paper of our Congress, the thesis, okay, general thesis. Status of civilization and perspective of expansion into space. I am trying to search to understand how much is the current funding for protection from cosmic and solar radiation. And what I find, it is quite disappointing because there are very low funding on that, less than 200 million or something like that per year.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not sure of this data because it's not easy to find this data. Even the artificial intelligence tools are very reluctant to give you the proper, specific, detailed data on the funding and so on. However, that means that we are joking. We are not serious. We are not working for the space settlement.
Right.
So I am trying to develop a provocation, saying to some researchers, and I hope you will help me in that, maybe, to say to some researchers, look, you know what? Your research is underfunded. What would you do if you had, let's say, 10 times more? Instead of 200 million, 2 billions, let me say. What could we do? Could we accelerate the production of effective technologies to shelter from cosmic radiation? Could we accelerate the experimentation of rotating habitats? So if yes, we have to fight for having more funds, to having governments to help this kind of researches. That's the point, I think, because the private enterprise is fundamental, is key. Without that, we will never open the frontier. That's true. But we also need government. And then I finish my comment. the question made by, I don't know if it was Williams now or another guy.
I will read it. I will forward
About,
it.
yeah, about, he asked, will we adapt to the lunar gravity or the Mars gravity? This is one question, but we have other questions. The problem is not if we will adapt. Probably in some generation we will adapt. But Gerard O'Neill wrote in the High Frontier that if you adapt to lunar or Mars gravity, you will never come back to Earth.
Right.
That's a limitation of our human rights, fundamental human rights, to migrate and come back. If somebody wants to come back and you are adapted since some years to the lunar gravity, you cannot come back, if not on a wheelchair. So you are very much limited in your rights, civil rights. So we have to start thinking in terms of civil rights in space, because we will not be astronauts. We will be civilians in space. So we have to have our rights, complete civilian rights. And so this is the difference, the paradigm difference that we have to start. We are working very much in Space Renaissance on these topics, these key points, and we hope that with our Congress we will try to give some indication, some disrupting statement, because this is what we need. We need to shock the monkey, as Peter Gabriel sang some years ago. Shock the monkey. I mean, we have to make people aware that it is urgent. It is urgent for peace, because you see what is happening. The Third World.
Yeah, if we
That will be the last war, probably, because the next one we will fight with stones and yeah, that's the point, because we will destroy civilization. If we don't open the frontier, we will destroy civilization. So the reference you made to the collaboration in space between Russia and America is fundamental. That is the legacy of the Apollo-Soyuz meeting in '75. That we continue to recall and to talk about that, because yeah, okay, I stop because I don't want to make another
So I agree with 90% of what you said, Adriano. The idea of the rights thing, where if somebody is born 3 generations or 4 generations in on the moon and they can't come back to the Earth, I would suggest that if you're trying to get the rest of this agenda done, that you leave that one alone. Because at some point, you're crossing over into just, you're weakening the main thrust. The main thrust here is that we need to shift from an exploration-based human programs to settlement-based programs, so that we are doing that. Because if you get off into that thing, that's just opening up a whole different thing, right? Of like, that's, to me, it's just kind of you're kind of adding noise that you don't need to bring in. The idea here is we need to know and support. I totally agree with you on the research dollars thing. And by the way, again, the billionaires need to put some money into this too, right? You can't just be building the vehicles and the space stations and the facilities and all of that out there for people to go live without doing the research about how they live, or who they become when they live there, or what their children look like who are born there. That needs to be funded. And it's not just government money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
A short interruption. Please, let's not talk about money. I'm really, can I use a bad word? Pissed off talking about money, because we see that they are throwing in the toilet trillions for the war. I
understand that. I understand that.
Nobody should tell me that government don't have money to put in the research. if they have money to waste in weapons, they shall have money for research. And I don't accept any more lie in that. Money now is electronic money. So please generate the money that are needed, really needed.
There you
And
go.
stop putting money in bombs, because this is crazy. Somebody wake up in the morning and say, let's make a good war. Okay, let's make a genocide. And then you go to buy the fuel for your car and you find it doubled the price.
Right.
It's not only
So,
the moral thing that you are killing thousands of people, but it's also a really absurd, crazy thing that we are paying because somebody else decided to make a war.
yeah.
Sorry,
I stop
because I am
talking
really
about
too,
war now. I have
I'm
here a
really too
space
upset
jet.
on this thing because in these days.
Oh,
So
look, I share your opinions, and to a large degree, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that, how do we separate out these? By the way, I'm going to say this, it's not space related, but I was in an event in Berlin recently, and I said this, I couldn't bite my tongue any longer. We talk about strong men. These are not strong men, they are boys, and they're little boys, and they want power, and that is a human trait that we're going to have to deal with, and that will come with us, right? The one thing that we can do is begin to demonstrate by working together, living together, and harvesting resources that are unlimited, that humanity doesn't need that, so that we can separate those two. Because what happens right now is it manifests in the term of these power boys. They say, well, we need these resources, so let's go have a war so that we can have these resources, etc. If we can take that motive away by opening up the unlimited resources of space, then maybe we can carve that back and say, you know what? You've been lying to us. We don't need that. We don't need to go fight anymore over these things because it's everywhere. We have energy, we have resources, and we can do that. Now you're just being, excuse my language, you're just being an asshole. You're just being small. You're just being an animal. We don't need that anymore. That is how we evolve, right? We take away that underlying rationalization. I don't give a frack about the Straits of Hormuz, right? Because that's an oil-based, fire-based, primitive economy at work. What I care about is how much solar we can get out there, how much, if you're into nuclear, how much wind, all of these things, great. But then let's go out into space and harvest the resources out there and take away those rationales, because then it'll become clear why people are doing it, and it's not about those things. That's all lies. That's, as I agree with you, that is a different motivation. Let's take the motivation away and see what's left.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, let me add this,
would like to
because
take
when
something
I
from
go
the chat.
upset, then I forget the important things. Of course, the moon is important. The moon is important.
Of course.
And so, but O'Neill gave the correct indication. Let's work on the moon and live in rotating habitats.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's
we
the
have,
solution.
now
Same thing we can do on Mars. Work on Mars.
We have a guest joining us here.
Yes.
My old
Hello,
friend.
Bernard.
Hello, Rick. Good
Bernard
to
is
see you.
coming and to
Good
join
to see you,
us.
man.
So I'm just coming from a COSPAR event. As you know, we are organizing the COSPAR General Assembly in Florence in August, and we had today all the meeting of the program committee. So I'm just coming back from there. So, but it's great to see you, Rick. I went to some of your events, including
Yes, you did.
the Cowboys, the Space Cowboys gala. It's a very memorable event. That's and
Yeah,
yeah.
little secret. Bernard's a good dancer, you know. So.
Oh yes.
Yes, it's not a secret, we know it.
Excellent. Yes. And in partial gravity on the moon, it would be even better, of course, huh?
Oh my God, yeah, right?
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I actually had a lady on my show out of Florida recently who's doing three-dimensional ballet dancing
Yeah.
activities. It's amazing. So, but yeah, man, it's great to see you, sir.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
We try to practice in parabolic flight also already on
Yes.
also on a rotating platform around Earth where we try to simulate all range of partial gravity, Moon, Mars, and yes,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is more fun to talk about than that other stuff, I have to
Yeah.
say. So
Yeah.
we should talk about the possibility and the beautiful things we can do.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would like to take some remarks from the chat again.
Sure.
We have Veronica Chiaravali, and she agrees with you, Rick. And she thinks that we not only have to open space for everyone, but dar more. And we should not spend so much money just to travel around the moon. And then as from Sawood, Rick plasmoid, sorry, plasmoid consciousness is a thing. Assuming these places are dead is totally off base. For example, there are aurora on Mars. The universe is not dead. Plasmoids self-organize, sense, and react. And there's another remark from William Snow. We are now working on a newer version of the original mass driver that is fully superconducting, first proposed by Henry Colm and myself in 1981. And this is being designed and prototypes being constructed at this time. These are not railguns. That is confused in the public domain. And we are proposing using lunar materials to fabricate the sunshades in space.
Mhm.
And then as from Sawood again, if humanity collaborated and pooled resources over the last 25 years, we would already be on the moon, Mars, and likely the asteroid belt, if not the Jovian and Saturnian moons, rather than Waring. Yeah, another one is asking, yes, why must we live on Earth? And William Snow is saying, Barbara Marx Hubbard was speaking of humanity evolving into space since 1976.
Mhm.
Check her writings. And then von Sawood is again that rotating habits needs to be huge to avoid centripetal forces causing
Mhm.
sensory and perceptual challenges. For instance, a thrown ball always will curve anti-spin direction. For spinning
Mhm.
hubs that are too small diameter, you get differential forces affecting the head and feet, leading to
That's the
strong
Coriolis.
vertigo.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the points in the I'm going to do it again in the book, and which, by the way, happens to be right here. Buy this book. Buy this book. Buy this book. I'm doing my own marketing, by the way, if you can't tell, right? But anyway, the when I talk about the speciation, in other words, the breaking up of humanity in different species. One of the things I do talk about, I think in the book, is that we may adapt. So, for example, the Coriolis effect, you may decide that, let's say you're going to go live in one of these habitats, and the person is right. They need to be big enough so that the difference of gravity between your feet and your head, and I know Bernard will know all this, the difference of gravity between your head and your feet has to be insignificant. So they have to be very, very large when they're rotating. But you may decide to have your inner ear switched off or switched back on. We may generationally have people who live out there who have less, are less troubled by that. When we talk about radiation, there are bacteria that live on the inside of nuclear plants because they are able to rapidly repair radiation damage. We are, with the ability of AI and genetic manipulation, probably not that far from being able to genetically modify human beings. Now, maybe not 100%, but maybe rather than, and Bernard, you have to correct me on this, like, was it 4 meters of soil, lunar soil to protect you? Maybe we can partially adapt human beings so you only need 1 meter of lunar soil, and the rest of it your body can handle. We have the capabilities as we're moving forward, and we're applying AI and the amazing genetic research that's going on around the planet to begin to change who we are in the space environment. So there's a lot of, once we get out there and we're able to just start doing these things, I think we're going to discover a lot of capabilities and a lot of abilities. Now, Adriano may bring up the fact that, well, do you have the right to do this to your children? Things like that. And those are valid questions we need to look at. Of course, somebody who has a child in Australia who grew up in Manhattan, you might want to ask them, like, do you really have the right to take your kid who should be a New Yorker and have them in Australia? I don't know. That's a whole level of things. But I mean, we have the ability to create humanity in new forms that work within these new environments. And I think it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, we can adapt. For instance, we had civilizations, they lived and worked without coffee. Before coffee was brought to us. And who can live without coffee now? So now, yeah, we can say that. So.
Who can do that?
Here's someone asking, Rick, if we are destined to spectate, should we take control and modify AI, augment ourselves to better suit the environments?
I think I just answered that. I'm totally up for it. Look, when I do talk about, I gotta quit saying this. I talk about my father at one point, and my dad, who was a very old school guy. We called him Sarge because he was a military sergeant. All of this, right? He made it to, I think, 93 years old, 94, something like that. By the time he passed away, he had, I'm going to get this wrong, he had artificial shoulders, he had artificial knees, he had artificial hips, and he had a pacing device, an electronic device buried in his chest that managed his heartbeats. He was like on his way to becoming a cyborg, right? And this is not some young hacker who's putting chips in his arm, and stuff like that. This is my dad, it was like in the Korean War. We're moving in that direction already. We just don't really recognize it. We will be adapting ourselves in all kinds of ways. But again, going back to Adriano's point, we need real research money going in there, not trivial money, because $200 million is nothing in terms of space research.
In case
we're dropping 5 times that amount of money on Iran every day right now.
In case you look for a volunteer to live on the moon, Bernard is willing to spend the rest of his life on the moon.
I plan to retire there in 10 years.
Okay. Bernard, you just triggered something. I'm gonna blow my own business plan here. Okay. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, I just became the chairman of Space Fund again. So I have to go out and raise $100 million. Anybody has any? I'm not allowed to advertise. I didn't say that. But anyway, the idea I was playing with was, I have a real problem with this concept of retirement that they call it's a construct, right? Person hits a certain age and now you're done. Here in the US, what they do is they give you a golf cart and they ship you to Florida, right? I believe there are a lot of people like Bernard, myself, Adriano, yourself, Sabine. We have a lot left in us, a lot of good use, a lot of good intelligence, and wisdom that younger people don't have. So what about this? What about if you created, now maybe it's a company, maybe it's a religion, maybe it's some nonprofit, whatever it is, and we take these people, I'm going to pick on Bernard. So let's say we have people like Bernard, and they decide that they're going to go to the moon. And we create an organization, or company, profit, nonprofit, whatever it is, and they're going to go to the moon, and they are going to be put in this habitat. And my favorite idea is you push them up against the crater, on the Shackleton crater wall, right? The side that has the best view, of the Earth, during moonrise. They push them up against the crater wall. And you build this habitat there. And then you take one of these boring devices that SpaceX has for building tunnels. You put it in the middle, and it starts boring into the crater wall, right? Now, the people living there on Earth would have been retired. But they all go there knowing that they're going to end their lives on the moon, but that they have a job. And their job in the later part of their lives, by the way, which is given a boost because now they're moving into 16G.
Yes, we have less back pain there,
Yeah,
And
less stress
we can
on their
have
body.
a new space renaissance on the moon.
Right. And, and the spouses can chase each other around the bed again like they used to do. But, they're up there. Their job is to begin burrowing into the crater walls and building a new lunar community.
Mhm.
And they have a legacy now. Rather than being shoved into some retirement home or something like that, the next section of their life is dedicated to building something grand for the generation that will follow.
Mhm.
And it gives it meaning. So that Bernard, for the next 30 to 50 years, and we won't get into longevity because I plan on going for thousands is my goal.
Mhm.
But Bernard, let's say, is spending the next 100 years of his life building something that will enable the next generation to live. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah,
I
but
think there would be people that would
even
pay
20
to do
years,
that.
because after I want to move on and die on Mars. But having a good
Yeah, you got that wandering spirit, man. And then after Mars, it'll become, then you're taking the starship and you're going, right? So
yeah, it will
always.
safe and yeah.
Yeah, we need more attitudes like that. But why not? And by the way, there is a company, I can't remember their name, but they're looking at a lunar hotel.
Yes, we sponsored actually with Lunar we sponsored a number of architects designing Lunar Hotel. When we created the Lunar Explorer Society, we had some contests, but now we have to make it happen not only beyond the concept, so to have a kind of a progression where we can start with a small unit and then we create a case for it, but also an hotel for people that are going to work there and build some benefit for society. Yeah, not only tourists.
Yeah, no. I want people who are going to go live out there for sure. Yeah, I mean, there are people who are going to pay to visit. That's great. That's revenue. You make some money off of that. But in the meantime, there are people who just go, and I'm ready to go.
And
Absolutely.
Sabrina, she spent 1 week on the moon base. Huh? We locked her for 1 week in a moon base, and she could open an art museum on the moon. Huh?
There you go.
Regarding modifying humans, I found out now the name Stephen Wood. You know him, Stephen Wood? And he's committed a lot, and he's writing, we are already GE modifying humans. The Chinese twin girls who were enhanced to be impervious to HIV AIDS. The same gene makes super intelligent, super resilient brains, will be eugenicize normal human. You understood what I said?
Is that a question or it sounds like a comment?
No, it was a remark, and he asked me to give you his name, so maybe you can follow him up, Stephen Wood.
Okay, I'll look for it. But again, yeah, it's happening. We're doing it. I mean, and I think it's amazing how all of this sort of happens at the same time, right? We have the transportation systems moving into the ships. So we have the rocket ships that'll take us there and back. We have the genetic capabilities. We have AI. We're getting into the power systems now. All of this happening right at the same moment as we can wipe ourselves out. I talk about this being the end of the most important 100 years in human history. Mm-hmm. And if you look 100 years ago, roughly, let's say within a 10 or 20 year period, that would have been the early 1900s. So we had the first global plague, we had the first global war, we had the first global transportation system, we had the first global communication systems. We had all of those things happened within a 10 or 20 year period centered around, let's say, the 1920s, right? And here we are 100 years later, and we have all of these things that have gradually developed over that period of time to the point where now we can wipe ourselves out or we can jump off the planet and go, all at the same time. And it's kind of uncanny and it's kind of strange, but it's almost exactly 100 years. And here we are. We have all of these systems, and it's going to be up to us. We have to make choices. And by the way, organizations like SRI and the others need to keep that pressure going, right? Because if all they're hearing from in government are these people are like, come on, man, I'm gonna sell you some weapons. Let's go blow somebody up. You know, that's where they're going to go. But they have to hear from people like this organization.
Thank you very much.
I think-
So just I want to ask you something. Please send me the cover of your book, the picture.
Okay.
Because we want to put it in our shop, in our online shop.
Well, of course. Thank you.
A link to Amazon, in order that people can buy your book from
But
our
you also
website.
can send us 5 copies, signed copies, and we distribute it in between us, and we make more advertisement for your book.
Maybe, why not?
Hmm.
And
No, we can
Next time I come to Europe, which I hopefully will be within the next month,
okay.
when
I will bring some copies and maybe we can figure out a way to get together.
and where will you go?
I am not sure yet. I'm working that out. I may end up in Ukraine. I just went to Lviv a few weeks ago. I may go back over there. I'm not sure where I'm heading yet. But I do know I'm heading over there because I need to meet some folks. It depends on where they tell me to go. But yeah, you know, and by the way, I am open for anybody who wants to invite me to come speak somewhere as long as you pay my airfare and give me a room to sleep in. I will not charge you because I only charge people that aren't in the space community.
If you
So-
make a stop in Milan, please give me a sign. If you make a stop in Milan,
Absolutely.
we can meet for a pizza or a beer and then make a...
I've heard they
But you
have
have
good
to pay
pizza in
flight.
Italy.
But maybe Bernard, you have some opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we have already the COSPA in Florence from 1st to 9th of August. And it will be vibrant, and we received the 4,000 abstracts, so it will be a great event for space research community. So we'll have a number of panels and so on. And we have also the International SRIC4 Congress in Antalya, in Turkey. This will be first week of October. That could be also a great opportunity for...
I'm up for any of that. I am,
Yeah.
look, I've spent 2 years kind of,
Yeah.
I've kind of spent 2 years off the grid working on the book and
Oh, okay,
working on myself and taking my body and my mind and all of that.
Yeah.
And now, as of Friday, or Thursday, I became the chairman of the company again. The book is out now. And so my goal is to just go
Yeah.
and evangelize and spread the message. So
Okay, yeah.
anything I can do, anything I do to help you guys. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So before we close, I think, okay, I don't want to raise another chapter. However, I think you touched another important point when you say that the resources belong to our children. The space resources belong to what we have also a discussion in SRI about that space resources belong to settlers, belong to space settlers. So space resources should be used in space to develop infrastructure and so on, and not be brought to Earth in a new colonialist style, even if there is not colonialism, because we are not stalling anybody this time to anyone. But however, I think this is a very important point, that we have to think about space resources in terms of space development, because even not to increase the pressure on Earth, because we don't need to increase the pressure. the industrial pressure and everything on Earth's surface. We need to start developing industrial outside. So this, I think, we have another point of agreement, if we want to say so.
Yeah, I don't buy, I totally agree with you. It's the language. I don't buy this application of the colonialist system to the future, because we're really not colonizing anybody, right? There's, maybe the middle, maybe we'll enslave the little moon people, but no, I'm kidding. I mean, there's nobody there, right? And so this is to the benefit of all. The economic systems that we use are worth examining, and we can look at that. It's funny because I'm a venture capitalist, but I'm more of a free enterprise person than I am a capitalist. In other words, capitalism has the idea of like, I get to accumulate as much as I can. That's different than free enterprise, which is we can all trade together and, I've got something you need, you have something I need, let's trade, let's sell, let's buy, da, da, da. At the end of the day, I believe that's the system for us all. And it works. It distributes things. It helps all of us get one of these and things like that, right? And so we need that. The problem is, at the core of it, they're human beings. And that's the challenge here. Frankly, I'm going to say this for Sabine, we have too many men in charge. Because we run around trying to beat everybody else up and take control. And I believe this, that the alpha male, and you've done this habitat stuff with the community that does this. The alpha male guy is going to be the first one who gets voted out the airlock.
But
right?
let's say at SRI, women are coming. Huh? We
need more women in charge.
Women are coming. In SRI, we are seeing two very, very good and combative
I agree with you.
rising. One is Veronica that already wrote something in our chat today, and the other one is Gulling. They are playing. They are going to play. Well, we will have surprises.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about. Look, we all have something to offer. That'll be one of the paradigm shifts. Look, we live in a society that is just barely past the point where physical strength determines power.
Yes.
We're only like 100 years past that. Keep that in mind, right? We're only like 100 years past the strongest person, is in charge. And, I guess it was gunpowder that got us there, unfortunately, but that's what it was. And so now we're in a place where when we get into space, it's not physical power, it's intellectual power, it's cultural power, it's social power. It's not even power. It's the ability of all of us to be empowered, right? As we move into this level of being. And that's what I mean by evolution. We will evolve physically, psychologically, and sociologically as we move into the frontier and open it for everybody. So let's go.
Nice ending words, and I agree with you. And I totally agree that we have to give more power to women, and they are underrated here in this community. And I think we should give them more opportunities. And I thank you that you mentioned this. I talked about this 2 weeks ago when we had Women Day, International Women Day.
Oh, yeah.
I was demonstrating for women's rights, and thank you so much for being with us. And I hope you will come back one day to our webinar series. It's always nice to have you here. And
Just before
I thank you. I thank to the audience for joining us, and Bernard for making it possible. I know you are very, very involved in many things, and if you make it possible to come to our webinar, I really appreciate it. And Adriano, one word only, not too much.
Yeah, no, I just want to say before we close, about a woman, this woman, Sabine.
Oh,
Someone could have noted that she is conducting this webinar after maybe 1 year or yeah, a period that she took a rest because she really made too much in the years before and she needed to rest. But today we have her back on her role of conductor of the SRI webinar series. So very, very welcome back, Sabine.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
It's like a renaissance with Sabine.
yeah, looking forward.
Very
Looking
good.
forward
Alright.
to the next
Okay.
appointments.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
see
very
you
much.
around, maybe in the US as well, or when you come to Europe. All the best.
Yes. We
Yeah, I'm
will-
looking forward to coming to Europe, and we will see you guys in December 1 through 3 in Houston, Texas, at New World's Fair.
Ah, yeah,
Hopefully.
yes, excellent.
I
Yeah.
will get you an invite, and we will go from there. And thank you all so much. Thank you. I really am honored. Anytime I can work with you guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick.
much
Thank you
to
for being with
and
us.
we see us again in 2 weeks to our next webinar. Okay.
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 Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.